ASMR true crime video. Today we will be going over a requested video that was sent in by Ray Muncey. Thank you for the request, Ray. I hope I do the video justice for you today. As per requests, I will not be playing with the microphone during the video, and since we're on with requests, I will also be kicking it old school and having a nice glass of wine with this video today. Okay. That is a massive glass of wine. Alright, everybody, get yourselves nice and comfortable. Grab yourself a nice glass of wine like I have myself. A nice cozy blanket. Maybe a pet of yours that is close by, that is looking like it wants to snuggle, you know, giving you those eyes, or whatever it is that you like to get yourselves relaxed and cozy. And let's dive into today's story about Albert Johnson, aka the Mad Trapper of Rat River. Cheers. Oh yeah, that's good stuff, guys. So if you have not already, please like and subscribe to my channel. I put out new ASMR videos every Wednesday, and I have so much fun and exciting things coming for you guys. So if you're not here, support the channel, click that big red subscribe button, and you guys will be notified for when I do 1,000,000 videos in October. I swear, at least it feels like that for me. So let's talk about Albert Johnson. So Albert Johnson, also known as the Mad Trapper of Rat River, was a fugitive whose actions stemming from a trapping dispute eventually sparked a huge manhunt in the Northwest Territories and Yukon in northern Canada. I just did a conspiracy about these areas. Go check that video out if you'd like to see it. So the event became a media circus as Johnson eluded the RCMP team sent to take him to custody, which ended after a 150-mile, aka 240-kilometer pursuit lasting more than a month, and a shootout in which Johnson was fatally wounded on the Eagle River, Yukon. So Albert Johnson was suspected to have had some sort of pseudonym, and his true identity currently remains a secret. So Albert Johnson arrived in Fort McPherson after coming down the Peel River on July 9th of 1931. He was questioned by the RCMP Constable Edgar Millen, but provided little information. I sounded so Canadian there, eh? Information. Millen thought he had a Scandinavian accent, generally kept himself clean-shaven, and seems to have plenty of money for supplies. After venturing the waterways in an indigenous-built raft to the Mackenzie River Delta, he had built a small 8-foot by 10-foot cabin on the banks of the Johnson had not acquired a trapping license, which was considered odd for someone living in the bush. At the time, many northern native traditional trapping areas were being invaded by outsiders fleeing the Great Depression, and some complaints may have been intended to remove him. In December, indigenous trappers complained to the local RCMP detachment in Aklavik that Johnson was tampering with their traps, tripping them and hanging them on trees. A post-incident investigation by the RCMP found an entirely different story. Evidently, Johnson had roughly told them to base, and leading post-war aviator Wilford Wap May of Canadian Airways to help in this hunt by scouting the area out for them from the air level that they could not get. He'd arrived in the new ski-equipped Belenka monoplane on February 5th. May discovered that Johnson had crossed the Richardson Mountains when the airplane had saw his trucks on the far side of the range. On February 14th, he discovered the tactics. Chattery totally just died. Okay. On February 14th, he discovered the tactics Johnson had been using to elude his followers. He had noticed a set of footprints leading off the center of the frozen surface of the Eagle River to the bank. Johnson had been following the caribou tracks in the middle of the river where they walked in order to give them better visibility of approaching predators. Walking in their tracks had hidden his footprints and allowed him to travel quickly on the compacted snow without having to use his snowshoes, which I'm sure would really show up in the snow. He left the trail only at night to make camp on the riverbank, which is the tracks that May had spotted. May had radioed back his findings, and the RCMP gave chase up the river, eventually being directed to Johnson by February 17th. I just said February, not February. So, we're coming near the end of the story, you guys. We're coming in. There's a big chase, okay? The pursuit team had rounded a bend in the river to find Johnson only a few hundred yards ahead. Okay, there's a chase. Standing in front of them, Johnson attempted to run for the bank, but as he was not wearing his snowshoes, he could not make it. A firefight had broke out in which the RCMP Constable Alfred King was seriously wounded, and Johnson was killed after being shot in the left side of the pelvis at an acute angle. It is believed that the bullet passed through vital tissues, bowels, and main arteries, which had led to his death. May landed the plane, picked up the injured officer, and flew him to help, for which he was credited with saving his life. After Johnson's death, RCMP officials realized that he had traveled over 137 kilometers. If you're American, it's 85 miles away. That's impressive. From his cabin, and only in 33 days. In a lot of snow, guys, okay? So, he was burning approximately 10,000 calories a day in the very, very minus 40, I think they said, cold weather. Obscene. No thanks. Been there, done that. Nothing to write home about. And a very hostile terrain. Like, come on now. So 75 years later, in 2007, forensics teams found that his tailbone was actually not a quantity of Beecham's pills and teeth with gold fillings that were believed to have actually been his own teeth. So during the entire chase, the Mounties, Royal Canadian Mounties, the Mounties had never heard Johnson even utter a single word. The only thing that they'd heard was Johnson's laugh after he had shot Constable Edgar Millen. So to this day, people debate who he was. Like, I like it when there's stories that you can learn the background of the person and why they were the way they were. No one knew who this man was. And to this day, people have no clue who he was, why he moved to the Arctic, or if he was actually even responsible for interfering with the trap lines as alleged. I would assume something though, but who knows, right? Like, he tried to run away as if there was something going on, but who knows? I don't know. So this is a different type of crime for you guys. Very different. So, in the 1930s, the initial investigation about the identity of Albert Johnson primarily focused on an obscure individual named Arthur Nelson. So details of Nelson's life were recorded by Yukon researcher and author Richard North. Nelson apparently traveled West, a forensic team assembled by Myth Merchants Films located and exhumed Johnson's grave near the cemetery in Aklavik. That's messed up. And had conducted modern forensic examinations on his remains. These were documented in the film The Hunt for the Mad Trapper and the book The Mad Trapper: Unearthing a Mystery by Barbara Smith. The team found that isotopic analysis of his teeth suggested that he may have grown up Scandinavian or in the US Midwest. He'd had scoliosis, which would have led to chronic back pain, that he was approximately 35 years in age, and had been struck multiple times in his final gun battle, including his leg, thorax, and a debilitating gunshot through his pelvis. A spiral fracture on his femur supports the anecdote that a bullet had hit and exploded an ammunition pouch on his hip. His dental work was of very high quality for the time, suggesting he was able to afford, state-of-the-art work at a major center, so like Chicago or New York. And DNA samples were also obtained for comparison work. After the examination, his remains were interred with full religious rites by both the local priests and native elders, something that had not been afforded to him at his original burial. While many people have offered convincing circumstantial and anecdotal evidence that they were related to him, DNA analysis ruled out all of the candidates, and his identity still is a mystery. So in 2017, it was decided to attempt a final DNA investigation. However, technical problems with the DNA eluded analysis until an adequate sequence was found in 2021. Further investigation by Othram traced his ancestors to Swedish descent, linking him to multiple descendants of Gustav Magnusson and Brita Svensdotter, suggesting that he was either their descendant or the